So One Message TV is about a little over 5 years old now, but it actually started more than 10 years ago. I was on a short-term mission trip with my church in Colombia, and the missionary had this idea that we would record the stories of Zacchaeus and the Good Samaritan and use these refugee children as the actors, and then they would act in it and their parents would watch it because their kids were in it. And we did that a few times, and I was thinking, this could work in a lot of different settings. And so One Message TV, we record video Bible stories for unreached people groups. And the majority of unreached people are oral learners. So that means they can't read, or they just come from a culture that learns from storytelling, not from reading. And so by doing the Bible stories in video form, then they can see these stories in a way that they can understand, that they don't have to read. And then the other thing that we do is we use the unreached people groups as the actors in the stories. So when they watch the Bible stories, they don't see some guy from the United States being Jesus. Jesus looks like them. And so it overcomes that barrier of them thinking, oh, this is a Western religion, or this is for somebody else, it's not for me. That they can see themselves in the story that God shares. So 2025 is a really big year for One Message TV. We have, over the first 5 years, usually been able to shoot maybe two stories every year, to go to 2 locations, work with 2 people groups. This next year, we hope to go to 5 different places. And the very first place we're going to go is to Thailand. We're going to work with a group called the Isan. We were there earlier this year for the very first time. There's 23 million Isan people and only 40,000 believers. So they need to hear God's word in a way that they can understand. And then in March, we're going back to Africa to begin a brand new work in Swahili. Now, Swahili is not just a local people group. It's not just one country. It's spoken across a lot of Africa. And so we hope that by recording these Bible stories, those stories will be able to carry across borders and just across the continent of Africa. And then later in the year, we'll be going back to Kenya. We're in conversations to go to Bangladesh and to go to Guatemala. And so we're really excited about the doors that God is opening up for One Message TV. So one of the very first people that was ever reached through the ministry of One Message TV was a man named Alberto. And he lived in a village, had about 100 people. There were only 2 believers. And Alberto was not one of those believers, but his brother was. And so we were shooting the story of Cain and Abel, and his brother asked Alberto to come and be in the video with him. And that first day, the missionary leaned over to me and said, I think he may be hungover this morning. But as the day went on, he got excited about the video. He came back the next day. After we had left, he began a relationship with that missionary, started to ask questions about Jesus. And a few months later, he was baptized. And then over those 5 years, he became an important piece to the beginning of a church in his village. He would write worship songs in his local language. He would help with translation into the language. And he became part of teams that would go to other villages and share about Jesus. Well, a few weeks ago, Alberto was killed in a car wreck. And it was a tragic loss, obviously, for his family and his village and the believers there. But there is one thing that's positive, and that is we know where Alberto is today. Alberto is in heaven. And because he was able to hear God's word in a way that he could understand. And so with One Message TV, we just know there are thousands of groups like Alberto's group. There are millions and millions of people like Alberto who are just waiting to hear God's word in a way they can understand.